more discussion of what the UK is thinking when it comes to tech policies, and Netflix gives up on DVDs. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by Factor. Visit factormeals.com/MacVoices50 and use the code MacVoices50 to get 50% off. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we finish up a discussion that gets a little intense about what the UK seems to be thinking when it comes to some of their tech policies and what it means to its users. Then we take a look at Netflix giving up on DVDs and divesting itself. Let's go back and let the panel do the talking.
Yeah, Chuck, you need to keep in mind that we actually are living in that dystopian future that was being predicted. The problem is we don't have like the cool clothes and all the other stuff that we saw in movies that went along with that dystopia. And instead, we still have to make our bed, go buy groceries, and wail and gnash our teeth when we find out that there's a government that wants to strip away even more privacy.
That is a really good point, Jeff, because you know what? Every day, otherwise people we can feel really bad for who live in, let's say China or Russia. Like, these are just ordinary people trying to live their lives. And that's the life that's the government that surrounds them, It's more alarming when it's a government that we feels more like ours. But it happens all the time, and that sucks.
Eric, you're sitting there looking thoughtful.
Well, finding exploits is difficult. And it's a lot easier to pay somebody to provide you with a security exploit. But government budgets aren't unlimited. So if you've just paid a whole pile of money to have an exploit to be able to monitor a whole pile of people's phones, and then that exploit gets patched right after you paid out all that money, you're just trying to get your money's worth out of that exploit by delaying the patch for a while. Maybe they need to work on getting some sort of guarantee that the exploit's going to exist long enough for that budgetary time frame. I'm not saying it's a good idea.
It's a commercial matter, so they should negotiate with the shady character they're buying it from. That okay, I'll tell you this number of dollars that probably has at least 6 zeros after it, and if this thing gets rendered obsolete in 30 days, you give me back 10, 20, 30 or some other percent.
Yeah.
Let the free market handle it.
Yeah. So this is really an accounting problem.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, at one level, it is, right. It's the old spy versus spy from Mad Magazine, things keep moving forward. And, I think what's interesting about this is at least, it's coming out that the UK is doing it. In the US, remember, what was it, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and 15, 16, 14, that action down in San Bernardino, and everyone was going ape that, he had an iPhone that was encrypted and we couldn't find out what was on it. And, there's a big outcry about that, which, settled down after a number of years. But, I don't think U.S. security services are any different in their attitude than the Brits across the pond are.
Brian, I'd gone to Eric for some uplifting commentary, but
sorry,
I sure didn't get it. So do you have any? Can you help me out?
I'm not sure about uplifting, but I have a couple thoughts. When I was reading the article, it was noting how these updates may not come about in the UK because of it. It got my mind thinking about not just the security updates and the incremental decimal point updates, but what about the next year when iOS 17, 18, 19, and so forth start coming around? And Apple, one of the things that's so great about utilizing Apple products is the way that the systems whether you're on an iPhone, iPad, Mac, etc., how they all interact with each other, and how even within those systems, how much integration there is within some of those programs. And I'm thinking like with iMessage, being able to send money through Apple Cash and utilizing that. So there's a feature that's, one of the more useful features, I think, to some people. And then you've got what's the name of it's like using FaceTime to be able to share watching a show. I'm trying to remember like party mode, or I can't remember the name of it, but that, one of those types of things. So, I mean, it not my thing to do, but at the same time, it's one of those things that a lot of people might enjoy doing. And it's just more features that are taken away than the actual app itself in its most basic use. And so I think that's troublesome. And then I kind of found it was making me think of a Ben Franklin quote, who said that those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. So taken to the nth degree, but yeah.
Yeah. And Brad brings up an interesting point too. He asks, what about security updates for Android and Windows in the UK? What happens to Patch Tuesday in the UK for the Windows users?
Yeah. I'm laughing only because Patch Tuesday would basically go away. The Android updates, no one's going to get those anyhow because you have to wait for your carrier to give them to you. So who would know?
Good point.
Yeah.
But
again, let me point out that I think that the people who are really concerned about security, I would speculate, and it's speculation, that they are probably a little bit more technologically advanced. So they would realize, okay, if there's this exploit, there's a problem, let me just get a VPN and pretend I live in a state, Massachusetts, New York, Texas, California, and get the update, that way, and completely bypass, this restrictive infrastructure, in the UK.
Pretty soon, it's going to be illegal to use VPNs. Actually, I think it already is in China.
Probably.
And that's going to present some
stake down.
Imagine the black market for DOM updater files, so people could grab them and install them manually.
Well, and think about the number of companies that rely on VPNs for remote work, especially now post-pandemic.
I've worked for them.
Yeah, and I can make comment on that too. Just there's a lot of companies out there that would say, okay, you can't bring your normal work device with you. We're going to give you a special clean travel device that is completely locked down and only will not access any of the company resources. And you have, let's say, an iPad or an iPhone for that matter. You will have no it's locked down. You can't access any of the company resources until you get out of until you leave China, leave the country.
David, unfortunately, I don't want to bash China here, but they've kind of made their reputation for
of course
abusing a lot of things, including any tech that comes into the country, to the point that I know I have not talked to people. I've heard about people that allegedly they take their laptop to China, they bring it home and they destroy it because they don't think there's any way to adequately cleanse it. But I'm
as long
just
as we're bashing the government and not the people, I'm good. I think we're good.
Yeah, well, and just thank you, Brittany. Yeah, you're right. But now I'm talking about just the normal remote worker who works for a company that, let's say it's a financial services company and therefore deals in people's confidential financial information.
Yep.
They try to protect those interactions with the remote workers via VPN. And if what we're talking about, and I know we're speculating wildly, but if that were to happen, then theoretically your financial data, my financial data, everything is just that much less safe.
Yeah, I mean, I'll also go back on the VPN topic too, real quick. That there are companies that have specific VPNs specifically just for China, so that they're following the government's rules by. Whereby, when you're in the United States, you're using your United States VPN, and when you're in China, you go to the China's VPN. So you are abiding by the government's rules, as we would call it in China. So we're being protected, but also not going against what they say when it comes to using VPN.
And that, by the way,
so I would
folks,
imagine.
Oh, go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah, so a question for Dave. So I would imagine those things, if you're in, US or European, in China on business, if you're using VPN, you probably have secure access back to your headquarters, but incoming, they'll still block, they'll still block the sites that the Chinese government doesn't want their citizens
right.
visit.
Exactly. That's pretty typical of many companies out there.
Barry in the chat room says the Windows geek in my user group says Microsoft isn't actually doing Patch Tuesday anymore.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I'm getting patches every month at work, so trust me.
Yeah, that just seems.
Oh, so David, are you saying it's more than just Tuesday?
It can be at times, yes.
And hey, I want to make sure you understand, folks, that if you didn't read the article, our comments about VPNs are purely speculative. Just it's one of those things. So it's not anything you have to worry about now if you're using a VPN. And we strongly advocate you using VPNs for your own privacy and security. So just we're thinking about what could happen. I want to bring another one. I hope that a link will fit in both the chat rooms. Mark, you brought this one to the table about Netflix and DVDs. And I wanted to make sure I got to this because I think this is just really, really interesting.
Yeah, it was a story I saw, I think it was on Sunday, and I tossed it in as a topic, and basically saying that, for anyone who's still a subscriber to the Netflix DVD service, they're shutting down the business at the end of September. And there was a date, that I forget that was in the article that you said, as of this date in September, any DVDs you have, don't bother sending them back to us. You can keep them. And if you want more, you can order more, and we'll let you have them. And I think reading some of the comments about the article, some of the interesting part about this is that they have content on DVDs or Blu-rays, that just is not available on their streaming service, given the way Netflix is competing with a lot of the studios through their streaming service, but their DVD service has it because they were purchased from the studios. So, for some people, it might be, a way to get, some interesting content, for free. But if you're not, and I'm not, but, if you're not a member of their DVD service, I don't know if you can still subscribe to it, and let alone what the utility is of trying to get, content, that way. I think more importantly, this is sort of a sign. It's kind of end of an era of Netflix made its big growth by being a better alternative to Blockbuster and the other DVD rental shops, because you could have multiple at a time, you could have a wait list, and so on and so forth. And again, you didn't get all those annoying penalties if you didn't return it at exactly 8:00 the next day. So it came, it grew, it got replaced, supplanted by, streaming services, famously back, I don't know, sort of, what was it, in the early teens, they said, we want to split our business in two and focus on streaming and the content. And, they upset all their users, and, their stock price, hit the toilet, and they continued their DVD service silently. But, I think under different, certainly under a different, subscription and purchasing plan. But, now we've come full circle. They're ending the service and, just going streaming only. So I think it's sort of like, the life of a floppy disk or DVDs, DVD players in our Macs. It's come, it's reached a high point, it's declined, and now it's gone.
This edition of MacVoices is supported by Factor. Visit factor.com/MacVoices50 to get 50% off. I don't know about you, but I thought summer was busy, and then I took a good look at my fall schedule. If you are too busy to cook this fall, but want to make sure you're eating well, you need Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. With Factor, skip the extra trip to the grocery store and the chopping, prepping, and cleaning up too, while still getting the flavor and nutritional quality you need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy, then go back to crushing your goals. But we're not just talking dinner here. With Factor, you can replenish your snack supply with an assortment of over 45 add-ons, including breakfast items like their delicious apple cinnamon pancakes, bacon and cheddar egg bites, and potato, bacon, and egg breakfast skillet. Or, for an easy wellness boost, try refreshing beverage options like cold-pressed juices, shakes, and smoothies. No kidding, the smoothies are great and they're my favorite. Head to factormeals.com/MacVoices50 and use the code MacVoices50 to get 50% off. That's code MacVoices50 at factormeals.com/MacVoices50 to get 50% off. Thanks to Factor for supporting MacVoices. You know, when I first saw this, my reaction was, I had all kind of weird reactions, and not good or bad, just that, okay, this is a great way of not having to deal with disposing of the discs.
Mm-hmm.
You're just giving them away. And then I thought, no, wait a minute, though. How does that go from a licensing standpoint? But I guess there's no law against giving away.
Right.
Well, the disc is the license. So if you give someone a disc, they now have the license for the content.
Okay.
So yeah, giving away a stack of DVDs to someone just means that that person now has a stack of licenses for whatever the content on the DVD is.
So there's nothing wrong with doing that.
No.
And it probably saves Netflix a bunch of money and trying to auction and draw down their inventory.
Yeah. Well,
have it recycled.
I'm sure we'll see quite an aftermarket of DVDs and things being sold and disposed of, because I can't imagine that they're going to get rid of their inventory this way. I think it's just nice sign, nice parting gift to their customers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I can tell you that Redbox reached out to them to try to get those DVDs, and they said no.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That just means the price wasn't right.
Maybe not. Yeah, I'm sure Redbox is trying to get it for, who knows? I can't quote an actual dollar amount, but I'm sure it was low.
And Jeff, you said that Netflix is sending people discs unordered, or?
Yeah, so the other thing they're doing is going through the view history from their DVD subscribers and randomly picking discs from that history and then just mailing them out. So that there's no way to sign up and say, "Hey, I want to do this." But if you're already a subscriber and you have a history, there's a chance that you'll end up with a few discs just showing up in the mail as a surprise. And you'll know if you're one of the people that's on the list when you get the package of discs in the mail.
Well, I was never a member of their DVD service, so I don't expect anything.
Oh yeah, it's only for people that have a current DVD subscription.
Brian?
I had a couple of thoughts. One is, it's interesting how they're with ending this DVD subscription service and even mailing out all the DVDs, to their customers so they don't have the inventory on hand. There are probably a lot of households that it's harder and harder to even come across a player to play those DVDs on. When you think about, all modern computers don't have the optical drives. You might find a few maybe gaming rigs that might be set up with it. And of course, you can specifically go out and buy an attachment. But even some of the other areas that you can usually put an optical disc into, Xbox, they have their optical drive, but PlayStation, one of the PS5 models, is digital only. Doesn't have any even area to put that disc into. And then the other thought I had was with them sending out all this media out to folks, when you think about some of the offerings that are available on the DVD selection, there's a lot of things that are not available on streaming, that never got the licensings to go available to digitally stream. And so it's kind of interesting how there's some media out there, that's on optical drives or optical discs rather, that is really, really hard to come by if you want to be able to watch it otherwise.
And you have to wonder where the back end is. Where's the tail? When do people stop caring about watching an average series from the 50s or the 60s, and it becomes no longer worth even having it available as a streaming option, no matter how cheap the storage gets? But I know that it seems like there's some series that I've looked back on and I go looking for them in streaming, and I either have a very hard time finding them or I can't find them at all.
I think it's not the storage, it's the rights.
Mm-hmm. Well, that may be too. Ben?
Honestly, I think it's closer than you think.
Yeah, like it already happened.
Wait, which is closer than you think? I'm confused.
That basically the black and white classics will disappear from streaming.
Well, Turner Classic Movies, TCM, was just rescued because it was going to go away, and there's a lot of classic movies on there. I think it was consortium with Steven Spielberg and who was it? The other director. They got involved and decided to go through and keep it alive.
It's an interesting comparison, I guess, between what the art of filmmaking is versus what is commercially viable.
Yeah,
because I'm sure that, I've made this joke a million times that, none of us, I doubt, can name who won Academy Awards in 1955 or 57, but we all know.
Or 2014.
2014. But we all know who the Three Stooges were.
I just read a story today about how major shows that have just been filmed are not being shown.
Yeah.
I just read that this morning, that there's, and I don't remember if it was Netflix and or Amazon or both, but there was some high budget show filmed in Australia, and they filmed the whole season of it, and they're not going to show it.
Yeah, was that Disney?
Probably them too.
WB did it first, but it has been slowly going around the different studios, because if they don't think something is going to make enough money, they can just scrap it and make it a tax write-off.
Yeah, that's what it said. There was some show that they filmed the second season. First season had been on, but let's see if I can find this story again.
That happened because
it was literally
Yes.
today. I read this.
Yeah, I read that too. I didn't remember what exactly it was, but it was on Netflix.
The Great Cancellation: Why Megabucks TV shows are vanishing without a trace. I guess the original story was in The Guardian. So Disney Plus made a show called Nautilus, a prequel to Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Right, I remember that.
And they did the whole thing, filmed it, and they're not going to show it.
I get the accounting part. We're back to that. I get the accounting part where it becomes a tax write-off, but I just don't understand. Then at some point you start to wonder, do they make up these things and go through the process just to get the write-off with never intending to do them? I mean, that seems more dystopian than anything else we've talked about.
I don't think I don't think so, Chuck. I think there's special circumstances on a case by case basis of why they may decide to do it. If they wanted to have maybe an ongoing series and they can't or whatever. But I would point out, I think it was something either Jim or Eric was saying about a lot of the old black and white movies. There's all these huge film vaults out there that somehow need to be made available online, and maybe people will pay for them, maybe not on an a la carte basis, but on a bundle, all the Fillmore movies that Turner has from pick a date, 1945 to 1955. I'm
all
sure
of the ones that are still around.
Oh, a lot of them are still around in vaults and things. I've seen film vaults personally in Hollywood. So, a lot of material is available. It's just, it's on celluloid. It needs to be,
but not all were preserved adequately. Like, we have lost a lot of movies. We've even lost a lot of video games.
I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying
the really popular ones you can probably still find a copy of. It's just
that's right, exactly.
Ones.
And there's other things that are recently that just due to licensing issues. All the thing about the hoopla about the Oppenheimer movie released last month. 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was on Netflix, maybe it was Amazon, but I'm pretty sure it was Netflix. There was a late 80s, early 90s movie, the same thing, Fat Man and Little Boy, that starred Paul Newman, about similar topic about development of the atomic bomb at Los Alamos. And I couldn't find it. Certainly Netflix had it, but they're in a battle with the studios. Amazon, they only had it for purchase. They didn't have it, for rental, which, sorry, I don't want to own it. I just want to see it, so, it's, just a case in point that there's, all sorts of, content out there that is still not, being made available to, customers that are flashing money, or willing to buy it, or pay for a view.
Some of that I think will never ever be available. Like, the content wasn't licensed properly in the first place. Like, sometimes there'll be music that at the time nobody, they just licensed the music for use, like there's a bunch of 60s and 70s TV shows that my understanding is just completely cannot ever be shown because they'd have to renegotiate or in some cases find who owns the music rights, and it's just not worth it to anybody to speculatively do that. So it just will never happen. Gone.
And that's really too bad. I understand the business side of it, absolutely. But boy, there's some great cultural pieces there that depict things the way they were then, whether you agreed with them or not, good or bad. That's the way it was. And it's getting hung up in some of these other things.
Well, you can kind of thank Disney for getting copyright extended out. Mm-hmm. So, maybe in 100 years, this stuff could become available and at least we do seem to have halted the continuing. It used to be like every few years they would make the copyright date longer just to make sure that Mickey Mouse never fell out of copyright. They've finally stopped doing that. So at least for now. So we'll see, but it's not going to benefit any of us as far as these, things from the 60s and 70s.
Jim, I was hoping to stay away from that, but I guess we can't. And I get why Disney does it. I feel like there should be some delineation between works that are being actively used. I don't know I'm not sure what the right word is there, as opposed to the ones that they're sitting on a shelf, nobody's doing anything with them, and they're being unseen.
Well, I don't blame Disney, but blame the legislatures that are the ones that Disney's going to do what's best for their shareholders. That they'll do whatever, they don't care. But legislatures shouldn't go along with that. But bought and paid for, I guess.
Yeah, well, we're back to that, unfortunately. Jeff, you brought up a great example of one of those shows that is, well, it got bastardized when it was released because of the music rights.
WKRP in Cincinnati. Yep. When the licensing was negotiated for the TV show, when it went on air, they didn't negotiate rights for the songs beyond the actual airing, which means that later on, to be able to watch WKRP in Cincinnati, they had to change the music that was in the episodes, which in many cases made it weird because they would be playing music that related directly to what was happening in the episode. And I don't know what's come of it, but I know at least a couple years ago, there was a push to get the licensing for the original music. So WKRP could be restored to what it was when it actually aired.
Yeah. If you watch the DVD versions versus a streaming version, it's a whole different animal because the music makes sense. Yeah. And especially if you were alive at that time, you can relate to it a lot more from a cultural standpoint as to what was going on. But
here's a crazy idea. We have, assume we have, sort of a Chat GPT equivalent, for music, and just tell it, to create a song in the style of this, and go out and master it. I think
I think a little bit.
You've just a whole another show there.
Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah. I know we've talked about this before, but still, it's
No, that's like there's a thing in computers called regular expressions, and there's a saying, like you have a problem and you say, "Oh, I know I can use regular expressions." Now you have two problems.
Well, and somewhere in this discussion, somewhere in between, I feel like is sampling from a music standpoint. That we went through that period where everybody was sampling all the classics and all the riffs from the great albums, and fortunately, that seems to have died away. At least that's my personal perception.
I would agree.
You mean we're not going to get P. Diddy rapping over Led Zeppelin again?
Oh, God, let's hope not.
I need to go get alcohol. I'll be right back.
Next time, the panel discusses an AirPods Max problem that may not be an AirPods Max problem and assesses an analyst's opinion of Apple's financial health. I'm Chuck Joyner. I'll see you next time on MacVoices. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.